hope you guys can hear me okay. All right, so I am one of those people who is not a big fan of standing on the podium and talking, so I will be walking around if you guys are okay. I want to start with this premise that if I tell you everything and I don't make you uncomfortable, I've not done my job. If you agree with everything I say, I have clearly sugar-coated too much. Let me start with the first part of how I look at things and how I look at the value-added reseller market which is out there and the vantage point that I get to see this from. So first of all, let me start with a very simple statement because who am I is a very simple question that can start. The funny thing about most introductions that you will be able to see is the only thing they don't cover is exactly what you do. All the awards and recognition is what is covered, but awards and recognitions, as we know, is really a byproduct of what we really do as business. So who am I in a very, very simple way? Just last week, we were at the New York Stock Exchange where we get recognized as one of the hottest cybersecurity companies in the world. We raised over $100 million. We're one of the fastest growing cybersecurity companies on the planet. More than over 30% of Fortune 100 companies today use us in some shape or form when it comes to our product offering. So when you talk about doing very, very cutting edge cybersecurity innovation for the largest companies on the planet, because my product today is used by the Googles and the Facebooks and the Novartis and the GSKs and the British Telecoms and the Telstras and the Saks Fifth Avenues and the Victoria's Secrets and the KFCs of the world. They're all my live customers. Hundreds of very, very, very large enterprises which are live customers of ours. So I want to start by saying the vantage point that I get to see enterprise selling, because we sell to the largest companies on the planet. I will tell you the good sides because as a company, I want to start with a statement that we are a 100% channels company. A company which is growing over 200% year over year, not for 1 year, not for 2 years, but for the last almost 4 to 5 years since we started selling our product. We used to be a services company before that. We've been growing exceptionally fast. That's the reason one of the hottest cybersecurity companies in the world. However, while we are 100% channels, I will also talk to you about the challenges we face working with channels. We've been super successful at a lot of things. I will tell you one of my failure stories, which have been go-to-market in India. And I will talk to you about my learnings and education which has happened from there. To talk to you about the strengths and weaknesses. And I'll make sure we cover all of that in the next 12 minutes. So firstly, let me get started by telling you how we look at channels. For a SaaS company which is a cutting edge product, which is 100% on the cloud, there is no boxes that we ship. There are no old way of saying, take my firewall like Cisco or take my device into a rack. I still need channels. That is the reason why as a company, we've taken a strategic call to say that we will be 100% channels. In the US, I'm one of the top 5 partners strategically for WWT, for Presidio, for Optiv, for some of the largest value-added resellers in the US. And we are a part of their innovation program with where and how things are. But at the same time, what I get to see is that most resellers across the globe will be extinct. I can tell you and I can predict this, that over 60% of the resellers who do not reinvent themselves, because we get to see the difference between people who are cutting edge, who understand that there was an old way of reselling and there is a new way of reselling. The two words value added has always been there for many decades now. That is not new. But the substance of what value you add, when the value is not stacking up a lot of hardware in your warehouses. The value is no longer saying I'll do payment up front while the accounts receivable will still be coming from the customer. The real value that we look for, cutting edge startups or companies like us look for when you talk about value added resellers is really the competence of the sales team which sells not features but value to customers. And that's fundamentally different. When you hire a salesperson, we get to see the difference between good and great value-added resellers is a direct function of the subject matter expertise of their sales team. This might sound very fundamental, but I'll give you an example. WWT is arguably one of the biggest value-added resellers on the planet. They do around $10 billion of business, they're the #1 reseller of Cisco around the world. They've got a dedicated practice for cybersecurity, and they've invested in things like field CISOs. These field CISOs, which are ex-CISOs themselves, or ex-people who are deep cybersecurity practitioners, are a part of their solution architecture team, and they are the one who go in and actually put things together in proposing to the customer and becoming the trusted advisor of the customer. I think gone are days where resellers can go in and take orders. If you do that, the margins will go down and you're only playing a war game, and it's a downward spiral. The big question again, what companies like ours look for in resellers is what competence does your sales team have? We're going ahead and saying that I understand the pain of the customer, because the customer is not buying a product. The customer doesn't buy services. The customer wants a solution for the pain that they have in their business right now. So one was saying we will fulfill orders, and that's a 2, 3, 4% gross margin business. But I've seen a ton of value-added resellers elevate that profile to 20, 30, 40% gross margins the moment they can actually act as consultants and trusted advisors. And that starts by requiring for you to invest. Invest in your own people, not into OEMs like us. Invest into your own people where they go ahead and are super subject matter experts of really understanding the pain, whether it's AI specialists, whether it's cybersecurity specialists, whether it's networking specialists, but very, very deep expertise. So that was one actionable that I thought, based on my experience, I should be able to share, especially on value-added reseller side of things. A ton of people are questioning about the disruption that will come in the market because of the app stores and the marketplaces. I sell to the largest companies on the planet. I can tell you value-added resellers are here to stay. People like buying from app stores when it's a $20,000 or a $10,000 product. The moment it goes beyond $100,000, it's almost 80, 85 lakh rupees. You don't want to just go and click and buy something. You want to talk to somebody. You want somebody to be able to be accountable, to be able to pick up the phone and talk when you talk about actually understanding the problem and again solving that. And I've seen the people who are able to invest and again understand the pain of the customer, they are the ones who get repeat business. And they are the ones who build the most deepest and the most recurring relationship with the customers which are out there. So that's one dimension of things. The second thing which I thought which would be valuable if I shared with you the story, we're a company incubated from IIT Bombay. We are more than 200 people across the globe with my entire engineering team in India. I'm a proud Indian and I continue to carry my Indian passport even if I stay in the US, doesn't matter. The reason I say and I start from that as a base, one of the biggest failures for us as a business has been the India market. We started from India. I started by hiring a team of 20 salespeople in India. Today, how many salespeople do I have in India? 0. Why is that? And I'm just being factual here, so that I'm trying to add value instead of giving you the fluff on top. I'm giving the brass tacks of what really matters. Today, I have a team of over 60 sellers in the US, in the UK, in Australia, in Northern Europe. But when you talk about the Indian market, the unfortunate reality is that, especially in cybersecurity, because that's the only thing that we understand, that it's very, very compliance-led. It is still not risk-led. And that's the reason why the only products that we saw were selling were the ones which the RBI is mandating or SEBI is mandating for most of the companies out here. And that is the reason the average spend. So while India is a huge IT hub, the global cybersecurity market is a $200 billion market growing at 16% year over year. The India market is less than $3.5 billion. That's less than 2% of the global cybersecurity spend. So even cutting edge startups like us, for me today to get a $100,000, $200,000 deal in the US, I don't even generally get involved in deals as small as that. In the Indian context, on the other side, the unfortunate reality there is that even smaller deals, when you talk about a $100,000 deal, first it goes on the higher side, $100,000, $200,000. And then if you talk about the expectations from the customers, starting from crazy payment terms, crazy feature requests, blah, 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 it actually almost makes it unfeasible for companies like us to be able to go ahead and not only stay, but actually expand in a country like India. And this is not just an Indian context problem. It's generally a problem of most developing nations which are out there. The reality, again, I'm trying to talk to you about is that you see a ton of Israeli startups. You see a ton of companies in the US. And the reason why they come much later in their evolution in India is where they already have saturated the market in the US and Western Europe. And that is when they start coming and seeing things in India. So that is a reality, the harsh reality of India from a numbers perspective. I still don't know one SaaS company on the planet which has more than 5 to 6% of their global revenue which comes out of India. It's just the reality. And the reason why I'm starting to say that, I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's an evolution curve which is out there. But this also on the positive means there's a lot of potential given the growth of India, given the GDP of India, given the average age of India. So what WWT has made in the US by becoming a company worth tens of billions of dollars, there will be wars in India which will be worth tens of billions of dollars in the next 1 or 2 or 3 decades. It has to happen. There is just no two ways about that because the economy is growing. So while the spend today is very, very limited, the spend is accelerating. So while the total market is only $3.5 billion, the speed of acceleration of cybersecurity market in India is 5 times more than what it is in the US. So the point I'm trying to make, and I'm just trying to give you that perspective, that I don't know any cybersecurity vendor globally which is over, say, over $1 billion in revenue, which will not have India as a focus because they see the next 5 to 10 years being doing that. So again, I try to make this very, very actionable, very, very useful from a perspective of giving you have a lot of very large companies and their leaders coming and talking to you today and giving you their perspective. Here is a young company which started from India, which is still Indian at heart because all our engineering happens in Bangalore. And that product is what the largest companies on the planet are using and paying crores of rupees per year as annual recurring revenue. We do hundreds of crores of rupees in revenue. We are valued at over 2,000 crore rupees because of only one reason, because of the value that we deliver. And we are growing every year over 100% year over year. So very, very hot company, still not successful in the Indian market. There's a lot for us to do. And as value-added resellers, we get to see in the US a lot of them also. But what differentiates a good and a great reseller is really investing into your competence and putting things together. But I still see that as a very, very promising thing for the next 10 years. And the reason why I would take a flight and still come here and talk to you guys, while I don't have salespeople today, I'm starting to see a ton of inbounds of where and how things are. So obviously starting to again reevaluate the Indian market, maybe not start with a team of 20 salespeople, but we're actually hiring a few people early next year to re-kick off our India market which is out there. So that's just at a very high level where I am and where the company is, and I wanted to give you some actionable views around value-added resellers and how do we look at that. And there's a reason why a company like us, which is still young but growing very, very fast, truly believes in the reseller model, and that's the reason why we say we are a 100% channels company. We don't do deals direct. In fact, in the US, we go to the point where our salespeople go every Tuesday and work out of the office of a reseller, because that's how you go on top of mind for them. I count my sellers of how much deals do we get to our resellers, not the other way around. Because every OEM will come to a reseller and say, can you make the introduction to 5 or 20 more accounts? That's not how we think great SaaS companies work. I actually count how many deals did we take to our resellers, to our channels. You start by giving, and naturally, that's when the salespeople of the channels get excited and understand the value proposition of where and how things are, and they are able to go ahead, and then it just becomes a multiplier effect, and the flywheel start in making things happen. So that just, again, I wanted to focus my talk more specific on this community of people who are sitting here, and again, the challenges and at the same time the opportunities that I see for the near future. That's what I wanted to share. There's obviously a lot more that I can talk about, who we are, what we do, which I'll summarize in like 60 seconds for any of you to be interested. What we're building at SAFE is really the platform of platforms for cybersecurity. We are building a platform where a CISO logs in every day to take decisions. If you think about it, the world's top 3 cybersecurity companies, CrowdStrike, Palo Alto Networks, and Zscaler. None of those products are products that CISOs log in every day to make decisions. They're phenomenal products. They're very, very useful products. But it's generally CISO -1, -2, -3. What we do is we aggregate all of that telemetry together. We have more than 100 APIs. So we go into a large company, say, let's take an example of, say, KFC. We will go to KFC and we take all of their cybersecurity telemetry together using APIs every day, and then translate to what is your risk of ransomware, what is your risk of data exfiltration, both probability-wise and dollar risk-wise, and give a list of actionable recommendations of what you need to do to reduce the risk in a quantified, in a meaningful fashion. And that is something that allows value-added resellers, because I like one of my resellers in the US calls us the Trojan horse. Because what we do is when we go in and say, this is your risk of ransomware, and here are the 5 things you need to do, like data backup, like EDR, like cloud security, that becomes more selling propositions for you. And it's not biased because you're not saying that. It's an independent tool which is saying what you need to do to go ahead and enhance your security posture. So that's what we do, and that's why some of the top resellers around the world love us. In my last round, we raised over $100 million. We actually got investments from likes of British Telecom and Telstra because they love selling our product as resellers also, not just being a customer. So that's just at a very high level about my views around the market, what we do. Deepak, thank you so much for having me here. If there are, I don't know if you take questions or towards the end, I'll be around. Sorry? Thank you, sir. So thank you so much for having me here, and I hope this was an insightful session.